Now, from January 7, 2025, a new administration will take over the management of the economy. But due to the fact that we have the manifesto of this new party, we don't have to wait for the 2025 budget for us to get a better picture in terms of how they plan to stabilize the economy, or what they will say, reset the economy. But how can we draw the line between the political campaign promise and the reality on the ground? On PM Express Business Edition today, we look at the incoming administration's economic plan for the economy and how they are planning to do. But I told you earlier on about the fact that we don't have to wait for the 2025 budget to get a better understanding of what is in hand for us when come January 7, 2025, the new managers of this economy. If you go through the incoming or the president-elect's first 120 days, what you call a social contract, he's talking about the fact that he's going to have the most lean government under the Fourth Republic, and that has an impact when it comes to expenditure as well. Also talk about the fact that if you go through, he's talking about the fact that he's going to hold what you call a national economic plan or economic meeting or economic management meeting to engage people in the public in terms of how to deal with the current challenge that is facing the economy, establish an export development council to promote the export as part of it, the broader strategy for the economic transformation, that is convene a national consultative conference on education, and we'll draw the line between education and the economy as well, and also the fact that introduce some of the following interventions: free tertiary education for persons with disabilities at the Ghana Medical Care Trust also has an impact on the economy as well. We'll be getting you more on that one as well. And also, one bit that will also be interest to you is about the fact that institute an inquiry or forensic audit into the collapse of these indigenous banks and how that will impact the economy as well going forward, and all those things. We'll be getting in more details. Also, the establishment of a women's development bank as well, and launch what they call a priority into job creation and all those things. And that has impact as well on the economy as well. We'll also be having a look at basically some of the taxes as well and the promises that he's made. And we look at the fact that we look at the second one, and let's flip through that one. We'll get more details on that one with respect to the taxes, the tax cuts, and how that would actually impact on the broader economy as well when it comes to those things. And there's economic management or economic consultative meeting that he's planning to hold with Ghanaians on how to reset the economy as well, and how all these things would impact on the broader economy. So let's do some analysis here. In terms of promises, you could look at the fact that the New Patriotic Party, which just lost this election, promised about 186, the NDC 112. Let's go down and let's have a look at these promises as well. If you look at the fact that it's very critical, abolish the e-levy, the covered levy, the bet-winning levy, and also the emissions as well. We'll focus more on the NDC because they are coming into government from January 7, 2025 as well. Now, the impact of these tax cuts, and we have someone here who's our guest who would debate us or enlighten us. The covered levy, if it's abolished, you understand, could see the country or the economy lose about 13.91 billion Ghana cedis. If you take away the e-levy as well, you're going to lose about 8.27 billion Ghana cedis. And the betting tax was bringing in about 5.1 billion Ghana cedis. Put all these things together, you can actually aggregate how much you'll be losing as an economy when these taxes are taken away. Also, let's look at the fact that the new incoming administration, if you go through their manifesto, they are planning to stabilize the city, curb inflation, and actually pressures and also reduce import reliance on essential goods as well. And this is another critical, and this has to do with the exchange rate. There's a promise that they'll take it back to where they left it, and someone would say that somewhere around 4 cities, if I'm right, as well. It's also very critical as well as to look at the total debt. And that is something that the new administration have to deal with, because we understand that in the first quarter of next year, they might have to take a decision about some payment totaling about $15 billion as well, and how are they going to handle this as well. And also look at the fact that the creation of strategic buffers and also sinking fund, That's a baby of one gentleman or one distinguished person we begin this evening to manage future debt levels, efficiency issues as well. And look at the debt situation as well. You could see the graph and how they have to take a decision on that one as well. Also review and enforce the Fiscal Responsibility Act, because that has impacts basically on our debt situation going forward. And if you look at the expenditure and the actuals as well, the graph will give you a better understanding of the decisions that this new administration have to take going forward, re-engage. And that's something I'm going to get the more understanding on the re-engaging the IMF in terms of completion of the current program. And we heard recently from the president-elect that it wouldn't be just the IMF program, but other programs that we have with the World Bank as well. And that'll be very interesting. So if you look at the growth rates and the new one that has come from the Ghana Statistical Service suggests that for the third quarter, we grew at 7.2%. If you look at the graph, the last time we got close to this was around 2018, 6.2. 2007, it was 8.1. So if you go through the graphs, this might be one of our best growth that we've seen for the third quarter of this year. There's already a debate about whether indeed there's a job growth or a jobless growth and the real impact on the economy. If you look at the Doing Business report, our rankings over the years, this could give us a better understanding from the World Bank. And so these are the issues that we'll be looking at this evening on PM Express as we try and assess when it comes to the economic policy of the incoming administration and what it means for us. All these things wrapped as you engage the minister or the former Minister of Finance, Tepe is my guest tonight, as we look at the economic policy of the incoming administration, what it means for you, all these issues wrapped up on PM Express Business Edition. Right back after this break. And welcome to PM Express Business Edition. As today we try to focus more on the economic policy of the incoming administration. I have with me in studio here, that is Honorable Tepe. He's the former Minister of Finance. But before we get deep into the economic issues, you know, there's your election headquarters. And let's go right to the police training school at Tesano, where my colleague James Aveji is up with some update on some coalition going over there in terms of the update on the parliamentary elections that happened in the Eastern region. James, if you can hear me, we're ready for you for an update in terms of the coalition that was happening there in terms of the results coming from the Eastern region.
George, thank you. And so the result for Suhum constituency are ready now and should be declared anytime, any moment from now. And the is ready. You see police officers there. Let me take you live as the returning officer is going to declare that Suhum constituency result.
After the correction from Suhum constituency, 6 polling stations were annulled by order. Therefore, results from 160 polling stations. Total vote cast. Results from 160. I mentioned the name according to the candidates. Up here, Frank Esedu Bakwin, polls 16,855 votes. Prince Adolf, polls 15,259. Emmanuel Dede Wiafe, polls 159. Kojo Asante, polls 14,860. Total valid votes 47,133. Total rejected ballots 671. Total vote cast 47,804. Therefore, by the power invested in me as the returning officer for Suhum constituency, I hereby declare Frank Asiedu Bakwen as MP-elect for Suhum constituency 2024 election. Thank you. Thank you.
And so, George, there you have it. The Electoral Commission returning officer there declaring the NPP's candidate for Suhum constituency, Frank Asiedu Bekwe, as winner for the Suhum constituency, as the recoalition has just ended. The process has been marred with argument over argument on the processes, especially with issues about pink sheets and all of that. The NPP is going to the majority leader, Alexander Penyo, marking there, calling his members to address the press. I must remind you that this is the third constituency that has been resolved so far out of the 4 constituencies that have been brought from the Eastern region to the police training school here in Accra for recollation of their constituency results due to some disturbances in the constituencies for which the process couldn't end there. First was Akwetia constituency. The NPP candidate for that constituency won there. Now they moved to Fantiakwa North constituency. The NPP candidate also won. And then NPP now. Let's listen to Alexander Penyomakin.
NPP, thank God once again that after patiently following due process, we have gotten our 3rd seat for the day after following due process. In all the collation, we patiently went through the pink sheets. The NDC and the independent candidate rejected 5 polling station pink sheets. We said no problem. If they are rejecting the inclusion of those 5 polling stations plus another polling station pink sheet that could not be found, we will still yield to them. That said, we still won by a comfortable margin. We thank God that when security was properly provided and the EC was firm, we've all seen transparently what we have achieved. We believe in democracy as MPP. We believe in the rule of law, and we don't believe in violence. We don't believe in the rule of the brow. We do not believe in unnecessary chaos. Therefore, we will continue to encourage our friends that let us all be law-abiding. There are further collations to be done tomorrow. Let us all demonstrate to the world that we are Ghanaians who believe in the rule of law. I shall continue to encourage my friends in the NDC to follow the good example of Dr. Bawumia. He is a statesman. He conceded where he realized that he had lost, and they should follow in that spirit. They know, the NDC is aware that most of these seats that they are trying to fight, they've lost. In fact, a moment ago, before the declaration, they were telling us that their foot soldiers are amassing out there, ready to attack their leadership, should we win all the seats. I told them that, so, what are you trying to tell us? Because your foot soldiers are not happy with you, does that mean that we should stop the process? And that they don't want honorable and not on press coalition to proceed? Because they think that there's tension out there. With tension, we are done with 3. We have to proceed with honorable and not on press coalition, which is the 4th for the day. It is almost done. And Anodon Pre has won. We have all our coalition. We have done it. We have the figures. The NDC is aware they have lost. In fact, they have their own collated results And the kind of thing they are saying is not good for democracy. It is not. They cannot say that because their foot soldiers are not happy with them, they, the leadership, cannot boldly go and tell their foot soldiers that indeed they have lost. If Dr. Baumia was sensitive to the reaction of the foot soldiers, I'm sure he wouldn't have conceded. Because many in MPP are not happy that we've lost. But we are listening to our leaders. That is what our leaders are telling us, that look, the election did not go well for the presidential contest. We have accepted it. We are going to reorganize our party for the future. I don't understand why the NDC, after winning the presidency, cannot boldly tell its party members that some of these seats indeed are not their seats. We have Ablekuma North, we have Tema Central, we have we have Obuasi East, we have Ahafano North, Ahafano Southwest. All these seats are pending. We have Techima South with proper coalition under security protection and with open table for all to participate. Ghanaians will see the outcome. Again, we have seen a lot of intimidation, frustrations, and undue delay on the part of the NDC. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, I think that our colleagues must be gracious in defeat. This is not about fighting unnecessary argument, shouting on top of your voice. They have won the presidency. There are seats that they know they have lost. They should stop the intimidation. They should stop the violence. There are people who are amassing at the gate, should be dispersed. They themselves should go and talk to them. This is not the Ghana we negotiated for. This is not the kind of democracy we want. And I am happy that our candidate for Suhum has finally been declared the winner. We know that Ghana has won. We are going to champion our democracy, the rule of law, and we believe that all shall be well should our friends in the NDC decide to understand the issues, follow due process for Ghana to move on. Thank you very much indeed.
Agents of the independent candidates are raising concern that the 6 police stations left, if declared, would, in a matter of fact, have some consequential effect on what has just been declared.
No, they themselves, please, let me put out the fact well. The independent candidate's agent and that of the NDC candidate's agent were those who rejected the 6 polling stations. They rejected the inclusion of those results. We only yielded to their rejection. They said they would not allow the inclusion of those results. So it cannot be that they are saying that they would turn around and say that the result should be added. They said that they don't want the result should be added. I want.
They don't have the result of those polling
No, please. Wait, please. There are 6 polling stations. One they cannot trace because of the confusion that ensued. For the 5 other polling stations, the results were there for us to collate. But the NDC and the independent candidate rejected. So they rejected it.
What's your response to the NDC who say that you have used the police to...
No, please. We are law-abiding, and they have never said that. I've not heard them say that.
I mean, that is the allegation they make in the course of the confusion when the police were building the wall around the AZ.
Please, we are all here. You know the peaceful atmosphere with which the collation was done. You see, my good friend, our friends are only acting in bad faith. They should stop it. When we were seated here, their seniors who came in knew that they had lost. And they came to tell us that we should compromise for the declaration to be done tomorrow because their foot soldiers are up in arms against them. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. They should be,
you are positive in Sawan Ejurejiri will top it up as a 4th one.
They should be honest. We want the process to continue peacefully. They shouldn't try to throw dust into the eyes of people. It's not fair.
I'm going to wait for Isawam to be declared before we
Well, it's in the hands of the EC and the security. We are here for collation, peaceful collation. Let's go by it. We are all here. Nobody is intimidating anybody. Look at the table. They delayed us for 2 hours. They came again, they left, and they've come again. We have our pin sheets. Your cameras are here. What is stopping the collation? If you've won, you've won. If you've lost, you've lost. And again, Dr. Bawumia considered even before declaration. Why are they not allowing due process to be followed? Thank you very much.
And so, George, that's the majority leader, Alexander Penyumakin, addressing the press just after the declaration. Let me quickly just give you an update and let you go on what we've experienced in the course of the day so far. I mean, 3 out of the 4 constituencies have been resolved, and in the Akwetia constituency, we had the NPP's candidate Ernest Kumi winning. In Fantiakwa North, the NPP's candidate Kwame Appiah-Kodua has also won. And then this third one, which is Suhum, and the NPP candidate Frank Asiedu Beke has also won that. We're waiting for Nsawam Eduejiri to be completed to know what the fate of both candidates will be. National Police Training School here in Accra, George.
Thank you very much, James, with that update at the police training school here in Tesano for the recollation of some results, constituencies from the eastern region. And you're back to PM Express Business Edition as we talk about the economy and the new administration that will be taking over from January 7, 2025. What is on the table for us when it comes to the economy in terms of what is in for us, what are they going to do? And I told you earlier on that we did have the manifesto, so that gives us a better understanding of what to expect after January 7, 2025, even though we are yet to have the budget presented. And with me in studio is Sir Tekbe. He's a former Minister of Finance and still around the elections. I know you were in your constituency. I mean, would you say that looking at the results, were you surprised by the numbers, or you think you work hard for it?
Well, we work hard for it, and but still the results, the outcome was overwhelming, which strengthens the mandate, going into governance, of the country, and it shows, first of all, the history, that came out for comparison. A history, where for the first time in its history, this country has defaulted on its debts, despite the warning of HIPIC, for which we decided to create buffers, for debt management, fiscal management. I believe we'll go through.
I'll get more deeper into the economic issue, but still, some say that a good book. Some say to whom that much is given, much is expected. And if you look at these numbers for some of your members, they say it sends shivers down their spine because a lot is expected from this incoming administration.
It's interesting because I thought that the nation had given the MPP 3 oil fields, and that's could I be?
We are restricting ourselves to the mandate. We will get into. There are several arguments in school of thought as to whether they had enough resources.
I'm only following, the notion of to whom much is given, much
was given to the MPP.
Of course,
they failed. They voted out.
Yes, so
much is being given to you in terms of the number of
fewer
votes.
was given to us. And
well, we are moving away from the past and looking at going forward. And some will say that if you look at the numbers that you've gotten, the expectation will be quite high from this.
Who forgets history? Let this country forget its history. I think it's important because it's a guide to the future. Because we cannot afford to forget what we have been through: highest inflation, highest deficit, debt defaults, and all of that. And that is a correction. And that's
what your leader is talking about, resetting the economy.
Yes. And so that is guiding us in terms of resetting the economy. And this wouldn't be the first time the NDC, as a tradition, has reset the economy. The NDC came out of the PNDC, ERP SAP, you recall, reset the economy. We came out of HIPIC to reset the economy. And once again, we are coming out of, you know, a period which would have been a period of abundance, and we are going to reset the economy. So we have the experience of resetting.
Oh, no, before we even get so much deep into the manifesto and what your leader, that's the president-elect, John Mahama, has told us about the economy. I mean, some running issues right now. Over the past 2 days, he had a meeting with the UN resident rep. He spoke about the fact that he's going to push for renegotiating the IMF program and as well as our program we have with the World Bank. And I asked myself that, what are we going to renegotiate here?
I think in an earlier, you know, speech on this, you know, he did indicate that he would seek some enhancements, you know, of the IMF program. And so I do not want us to look at renegotiation being in the context of, you know, repudiation of terms or of restarting, you know, things that, you know, have been firmly agreed upon. After all, the IMF program was based on poor performance of the economy, the West, in our history. And therefore, what the president sought, you know, to portray, which he has said several times, that there are certain indicators which he would want, you know, to enhance. There are other indicators for which, you know, he would conduct a national, you know, forum, and after which, obviously, he would have the mandate, a clear mandate. And so the renegotiation is in terms of making the program more attractive and making it therefore, targeting it to meet the needs, you know, the people. If I may give you one example, if we have, you know, beyond, you know, your...
Oh, why not? You can go ahead. I mean, because what I was trying to establish was the fact that is it about the benchmarks or asking for more time? Because we've seen in this country before that they have, a new administration came and asked for another time. And knowing where you are coming from, Honorable, I mean, I believe that you're one of his wisest counsel when it comes to when he has to take a decision on the renegotiating of our program with the IMF. Are you going to move for extended period so that the benchmarks can be relaxed a little bit, or in terms of certain key variables? And that's what I'm trying to understand from you, that what would he be pushing for renegotiation here?
Yeah, okay, well, I mean, fun jargons.
Or if His Excellency actually, the Honorable said, looking at where you're coming from, help me, I mean, in terms of the renegotiating, what would be the advice to him about this is where we should go?
Oh, no. Yes.
Or it's already out there?
No, yeah, His Excellency has said this over the campaign.
Maybe you can help us appreciate.
To give you some examples, if you look at, you use benchmarks, okay, the primary or the major benchmark, you know, which is being used to measure our performance today is the primary balance, as you know. Technically, that means that, you know, the way we calculate the deficit, right? We think that Ghanaians should give themselves a tougher, you know, understanding of that. An enhanced understanding of that, and which could lead to a better and tougher, you know, benchmark. You know, for the sake of our listeners, that what we are talking about, how do you calculate what we call the deficit, the budget deficit, which, like the household deficit, means that your expenditure, you know, your expenditure is higher than your revenue, so you have a deficit, right? When you have a deficit, it means that you borrow ordinarily to make up the difference. So if your revenue is 8, your expenditure is 10, you have a deficit of 2, so you borrow 2, right? Now, in that expenditure, when it comes to, you know, repayment and meeting your commitments, right? You pay the interest, right? And then you also you may have some arrears, which you have to cover, and therefore you have to make provision, sufficient provision, you know, to pay the principal amount, right? Now, the definition of a primary balance is expenditure less interest. So you see, the logic of it all is that we have to be careful, because what is the problem plaguing the economy? It is default, it is debt, and we are leaving out interest. What is the problem facing the economy? Arrears, contractors have not been paid, IPPs, we don't have power. But in the calculation of primary balance, other than what we call the overall balance, you are leaving out arrears. What is the reason we have defaulted? It's because we stopped the sinking fund, we stopped the debt repayment, let me use that expression, right, which is what you have to, you borrow annually, and then you put money aside to pay, right? If what you are borrowing is higher than your repayment, you increase your debt. On the other hand, if your repayment is higher than your financing or borrowing, then you are lowering your debt. This is also excluded. Remember, the primary balance took expenditure and is taking all of these things out, which means that we may not be getting a good appreciation of our performance. We may not be getting rightly, if we are being told that you leave out interest when your problem is debt, you leave out arrears when your problem, is non-payment of contractors, non-payment of IPPs and the rest. Then you may be using, say, I'm doing well when my deficit is, let's say, 7%, when in actual fact, when you add all of this, your deficit and your financing is actually...
So basically review the way the primary balance is calculated and measured
no problem
under a fund program.
Exactly.
Some would say that the debt was the biggest problem. Now, if we should go by what the current government is saying, they are almost through the renegotiation or restructuring of these debts. So that is taken away. I'm trying to get this because then the notion out was that if you're going to renegotiate, then it's more of scrapping the program, coming with new terms and all the rest.
George, we are keeping our eyes on the goal.
Which is?
Which is to go back and be able to borrow and repay to develop the economy.
So soon?
Excuse me. Yes, no, you keep your eyes on the goal. I spoke about goal. And that means for us that the situation where you are almost 100% dependent on 3 months borrowing is not sustainable.
So what is happening?
But that's what's happening, Treasury bill.
Okay.
We are predominantly dependent on Treasury bill. We have stopped going to the bond market. Even our own domestic bond market, we've gone. So when we are saying that, we are looking further, we are saying that if you don't give yourself those tougher targets, you may not be able to return to the debt.
So in your case, I get the understanding that instead of trying to lengthen the period, maybe you might be front-loading the benchmarks again to ensure that you finish the program even before the 2026 as the fund is looking at ending this program?
Yes, so let's look at history, right? Let's look at our record, right? Remember, we did a homegrown policy. Remember that the sinking fund or the debt repayment mechanism was not a criteria in the 2015.
But you introduced that?
We introduced it.
Okay.
The stabilization fund was not a criteria. We introduced it. The self-financing of project was not a criteria. We introduced it. What are the outcomes? We came up with a deficit of 6.1. Today, because we abandoned, let me finish. We came out with a debt, of 57% on the new basis, of course. And then we also were able to, in fact, COVID is a good example. What was the first resource that was used to tackle COVID? Was it not going to Parliament in a rush, to take to 50 million of the dollars of the money in the stabilization fund, which we left with one oil field and didn't increase with 3 oil fields. So we are proving right. We have Terminal 3, we have all these other airports. Sorry, Terminal 3 airport, we have the port expansion, we have the Chuabu, we have the pipelines. We did all this without default. That is because we managed to get a repayment mechanism. In other words, what I'm saying is that a fund program does not constrain you, right, from setting targets which will stabilize the economy better. And so I'm basing my saying that we have to return to the debt market, but going back to and that is because as a developing country, you cannot use only current revenue. to develop your economy. You borrow, but with 3 oil fields, we should put more. I'm just landing. With 3 oil fields, we ought to have put more into the repayment mechanism. We would not have defaulted. Right. So we say yes. So we're saying that, yes, we have tangible examples as I'm giving you to show that if you tighten your belt a little, as we say,
you can do it.
Yes. You could do it.
So I'm looking at the primary balance here. I'm looking at front-loading the target to make sure that you get out of the program quickly, and also allowing you that space to do. And the leader uses expression when he engaged the UN about smart borrowing. Smart borrowing. So that is what I get from that. These are the areas that the renegotiation will look at in terms of fast-tracking these things, and also a window that will allow you to look at the smart borrowing to...
Yes, precisely. Because remember, the smart borrowing was the result of, moving away, negotiating with labor, negotiating with, power producers and the rest, and saying we cannot continue to borrow, to continue to borrowing to pay for, past debt, present debt, and future debt. What we have to do, in other words, you are increasing debt upon debt. So we said, look, we have enhanced our repayment ability, right? So if you give us the opportunity, we would rather use revenue to pay you the arrears and others, right? Or we would increase taxes temporarily, ESLA, which was to be 3 to 5 years, clear the arrears, and we did all of this, right? So that is what His Excellency was talking about in terms of the smart borrowing, given the context. So we're saying it served the country, and we are going to go back.
So there will be borrowing. I mean, yes. That window to borrow to finance the expensive debts.
We would borrow, yes. We would.
And that is what the renegotiation would entail about the fact that give us the window.
And then another one is, remember, we have looked at, and the map was there when you were showing it, there are repayments are going to fall due from
January, of course, some about $15 billion. You make a payment on January 2nd. I hope the transition team will be briefing you on all of that.
No, again,
and where was that money going to come from?
Yes.
Even the $15 billion in the first quarter of next year.
Okay, George, you use an expression, where is that money going to come from?
Yeah.
Let me tell you that in 2013, 2014, when we set up the sinking fund, it is because we were asking ourselves in 2017.
Where will be the sinking fund run? Because that is past and gone. Moving on, I'm looking at how you're going to deal with it. I know we'll be gathered by history, but going forward in the first quarter next year.
You pose a question. Just if you allow me, I'll go to the future. I'm saying that the past is a teacher of what you have to do. And I'm saying that in 2013, 2014, if you look 3 years ahead, there was a $750 million US principal of the first sovereign bond, which would have fallen due. Higher than what we are talking about today. Higher than the repayment that we have to do. This was one of the reasons for setting oil money aside to start paying off, that debt. Before we left office, we used approximately 336 million to buy back our own bonds. We lowered the debt. You see why we're able to achieve 57%? To lower the debt. We left 250 million in the sinking fund. That's in addition to the 250. Don't confuse the stabilization fund. Yeah. And the government of the MPP government used that balance to pay off the 200 million after we are refinanced.
Demonstrate the good thing that you did past there.
Yes, so I'm saying that precisely. Yes. So I'm saying that when His Excellency is saying that we have a history, it is not just, you need to
guide us.
To guide us. And that is the point I want to make. I want to assure Ghanaians that these are things we did, and therefore when His Excellency is talking about we reintroducing the sinking fund, we adopting the smart borrowing, which is, let me explain one example. What it took was to take the forex that was flowing from passports, fees, and the rest, which all of us paid, right, and ring-fence it to say the airport is too small. So why don't we deny ourselves, So the portion that goes in the consolidated fund, the portion that went into, that's the forex element of it, right, was what was put together. Projections were done. and we're proven right that if we took a loan of 10 to 15 years, just as we did with the pipelines, with the Tuabu and the rest, the project can pay for itself. Today, Airport Terminal 3 is paying for itself. So if His Excellency says that we are going to bring back the oil companies in order that we can boost oil, we are going to add all new natural resources and do a natural resource revenue management, amend the petrol revenue to be natural resource, it is because we have achieved results.
And that will serve as a buffer for these borrowings or something
exactly.
to do with.
It will provide additional buffer to remove the hump. Just as we removed, the first sovereign bond of 750 hump. It was a big hump. Today, we are talking about 100 million, 150 million that will fall due. And therefore, with those resources, you bring back the repayment mechanism and you can, meet the task. So we are telling Ghanaians that this is something which was done. It is not well known to many Ghanaians that, these are the purposes of those funds and what they achieve for us. We are facing a similar situation because they were stopped. And that is why he wants to call a national forum to explain and have a consensus that if we set up a debt repayment mechanism, as many countries do, we should no longer go back.
No, but I'll be coming back deeper into the consensus building approach. But before we even go for a quick commercial break, just in a quick 2 minutes as well, are you also mindful about the signal this will send? We know it's been done before, but if you look at the trajectory of the program right now, if you look at the recent staff report that came out recently, the donors are comfortable. The signal of renegotiation, how are you going to tread cautiously and if you be brave, because we need to not to send the wrong signals to the offshore investors who are now looking at coming back, your donors as well, so that it could not back.
I don't get. There's no contradiction at all. We are doing things that would rather be attractive.
So it won't ward off.
To those, yes, we're doing things that would be attractive to those who gave us a loan in the past. And because we stopped the repayment mechanism, we are doing things that will tell, the country that we need not have borrowed so much for COVID, because if we left 250 million, right, learning from global financial crisis and President Mills, and we had put another 250 million, that 250 million for Jubilee, which we left, another 250 million for Tenfield, and another 250 million for Sankofa, you will have 750 million. So that is how you win yourself. You wouldn't have gone to, let me land, you wouldn't have gone to borrow 1 billion because you did a sacrifice and you were able to protect yourself against, buffers. And when you do that, that is what countries do to win themselves. That is how countries learn to manage their crisis. And they are not always returning to the IMF. You go there only when...
So I get from you that this renegotiation will be done in a way that it won't send any bad signal to these donors and investors. Or they'll be brought on board or engage them.
No, the donors, not at all. The donors, right, the lenders and the rest, after all, if you are going to take off, the first sovereign bond as we did, you go and you convince them in the market that you have good intentions. That is how we're able to also get a World Bank partial risk, and the World Bank loan guarantees. So today, because we stopped those schemes, we've defaulted.
So it will be done in a way that, we will deal with any concerns about a negative reaction to this move.
These are positive moves, so I don't see any negative reaction. No.
Okay, this is PM Express Business Edition. As you look at resetting the economy and the NDC's proposals and approach to try and stabilize the economy going forward, I'm engaging the former Minister of Finance, Honorable Seth Terkper. We're right back after this break. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition as we talk about resetting the Ghanaian economy and the NDC assessing those economic policies that from January 7, 2025, what should we be expecting from the new administration? Should we just restrict ourselves to the manifesto because we don't have the budget to scrutinize? Is it enough, or can we put that in the class of a political campaign promise and therefore the reality strikes, things might be different? He is the former Minister of Finance, Honorable Seth Terkper, and I'm engaging him on all these issues. And thank you so much, Honorable, for your time. a national consultative meeting on the economy. Some will say that we've gone through your manifesto. We know what you want to do. We know what you want to do to reset the economy. Why a national dialogue again? For what? I mean, is it more of playing to the gallery or populism or what? Some will say.
It is based again on our experience that when you bring together experts and a mix of experts and other strata of society to put before them in more concrete terms what it will involve to achieve the manifesto promises. What Senchi has taught us is that...
What did Senchi do? No, some would say that was another example of maybe playing to the gallery.
But
and
Senchi, remember, no. Senchi was what produced the smart borrowing. Senchi was where, some of the concepts, like how do we operationalize the stabilization fund, right? Which was building up. If you recall, 2011, PRMA was passed, right? 2013, we started operationalizing them. You need to explain to the public that if we do this, this is going to be the outcome. Right now, we have gone through a period of difficulty, which could have been averted if some of these things had been done. Recall that we were also borrowing domestic bonds, which we had just initiated, principally to pay a single spine. Not just Senchi, we had WHO, and then we also had Takrady with labor to explain, that probably we would continue paying the single spine currents on a monthly basis, but arrears that are accumulated will be spread over a period of time to allow government breather to get the resources and stop the excessive borrowing for some other purposes. We achieved that goal in 2.5 years by the time we're leaving. Dumso, remember, the breach of the pipeline from Nigeria, which resulted in non-supply of gas, for which VRA and others had to ramp up IPPs. We went to the public, we went to Parliament and said, ESLA, let us use it. It had 3 to 5 years, it will end. But it was extended.
So there are past examples to guide this. But Honorable, some will say
that's
that
the point we are
Ghanaians voted for this party because they know what you've promised them in the manifesto. And a national dialogue that would dilute this thing might not be necessary. So some will say that go ahead and do what voters have or Ghanaians have given you the mandate to manage this economy.
George,
a national consultative dialogue might not be needed.
Well, I think that argument, I think it's moot. In the sense that, that is what was put. It was in the,
the
manifesto that we are
and you're going to go ahead.
Of course. We got a mandate of the people, right? They agreed that there are areas where things have been making in terms of free SHS, in terms of other major initiatives. We would have the opportunity to examine the borrowing that is being done to support free SHS. We would have the opportunity when we get the records to know the real arrears that is behind it, which are the reason why parents have to pay. And then you are not just going to be criticizing and saying that we're borrowing too much, we're doing so, but saying that suppose we expand the e-schools into the communities. What purpose will they serve? What purpose are they serving now? Right? So you need to have...
So these inputs would fine-tune the actual implementation of some of these economic programs?
Absolutely. Okay. And this time you are building consensus, just as Senchi. So in building consensus, you want to even bring, critics. Those
will you have the NPP on board in this national?
Senchi,
the last one, we knew what happened.
Of course, they were.
So are you going to bring them on board this time around?
I believe that His Excellency, he said.
Would you advise His Excellency to bring them on board?
No, His Excellency had already said that it's a cross-section of Ghanaians, and that is, and judging by the fact that in 2013, 2013, he invited, all.
But they didn't turn up.
Well, that's the choice of the NPP.
But would you, because today in the engagement, again with the National Chief Imam and all that, he gave the signal that if he's not going to be dictate. I hope I'm using the expression well, or supreme leader. But even whatever that they were going to do in Parliament, he will push for a more consultation with the NPP as well. So the signal has been sent that they are going to be brought on board. Precisely. But I'm saying that would that olive branch be offered to them that we still need you, even though the NDC has the mandate of the people to govern this economy?
I'm saying that His Excellency did it in 2013. And by the way, it wasn't the entire MPP that boycotted. There were members of the MPP, prominent ones at that, you know, some of them, who attended and offered.
I was saying,
yeah, of course. I know, yes. That's why I said that you know some of them who attended and offered very, you know, solid recommendations that were included. You know, so I believe that His Excellency, you know, is going to repeat it. It's not even up to me to suggest to him. He has already stated that he will build a consensus, and that is going to be followed. You know, I'm trying to, what I'm trying to do here is to say that in the heat of electioneering, in the heat of sloganeering and other things, sometimes, you know, the real intention, because it's competition. So what I'm trying to say here is that for some of the measures which are here, using, you know, for example, using infrastructure, as we have said, right, to grow the economy, to create jobs, right, is something which has been done. It's not new.
It's not new.
Yes. And so, I mean, during off break, I was telling you that I believe strongly that when the numbers are taken, the jobs that have been created in Terminal 3 is probably more than Terminal 1 and 2 put together. That's the power of infrastructure. When you are doing, if you bring all the e-schools and you count the number of, you know, from chief executive all the way down, you know, the owner of the business, the top people all the way down to, you know, laborers and the rest, you would have seen. And it's more sustainable. Why am I saying that it's sustainable? Terminal 3 is not going to go away pretty soon, especially if we kept it well, we maintain it, make provision, not just to pay loans, but to do repairs and others. Who knows? The concept to convince people that Ghana is onto something, is able to build Terminal 3 from its own resources. Let's give them the chance to go and build the international airport. Remember that at the same time that Terminal 3 was being done, Tamale was starting, you know, and Kumasi was also starting. We applied the same principle to the port expansion and others. So I'm saying...
And we're going to see more of that in...
Precisely.
Mahama 2 administration in terms of using infrastructure or using this infrastructure to self-financing some of these projects to pay off the debts as well, and create jobs as well. I will ask my producers to bring this flyer, the bit about the Mahama contracts, the bit about the impact of these tax scrapping and the revenue expected loss. Now I'm going to get Honorable Secretary's thought on these revenue measures that the incoming president or the president-elect has promised to scrap them based on what is captured in their manifesto and the impact on it with respect to the flyer that looks at the Mahama economic contract, the page that looks at the fact that if they should take off these taxes, this is, I think it should be on the second or third page when it comes to that flyer is giving us a breakdown of what we'll lose in these individual tax lines and Honorable, if I'm wrong, maybe you help me. Some will say, the Honorable, I mean, you've been in government before. Being out sometimes might be a little bit difficult or different. Why don't you wait to come in and then look at the picture and still push the other one that had to do with the economic contract, that particular flyer, that one, that is what, and look at the picture and push ahead, because some will say we've seen it before. Nuisance tax was taken off, but it came back in another form. Some are saying that, aren't we going to see a situation where, yes, these taxes will be taken off? And you look at the expected loss, and some are saying that this economy might not be doing well. Why wouldn't you come and look at the picture and then be pushed ahead some of these cuts?
Let's be a little more technical. You were showing the nominal.
Yeah.
You were not showing it in terms of GDP. Okay. And if I knew this was coming, I would have brought my calculation to show you that of the 20% plus levies that we have, the 20 plus levies, point number one, the 20 plus levies that we have are not generating more than 5% of GDP, of tax revenue.
That includes the betting, that includes the
betting. It even includes communication service tax. It includes the a levy is a levy. It includes the national health insurance levy. It includes the get fund levy. I'm saying they are not giving you anything above, 5%. Secondly, many of those taxes we are talking about today, like levies, all those cumulative taxes, many of them were actually subsumed into the value-added tax when the VAT was created. Remember, the VAT was introduced to replace, what would have then been christened the nuisance taxes. So the VAT had already, and recall, let me give you two examples. Recall that the National Health Insurance levy, first the Get Fund levy, at 2.5%, was brought in to augment the 10% rate at which the VAT was introduced. I know for a fact I was the national coordinator for the VAT when it was introduced. Right? It increased the VAT rate to 12.5. Then under His Excellency Kufuor's administration, the VAT rate was increased by another 2.5% to increase it to 15% because the rate at 10% was not sustainable. Now, that is why, under the old dispensation, and this is, I want businessmen to listen to what I'm saying. This is why they were not treated as separate levies, even though they were called as levies, but they were collected as though they were VAT. And therefore, if you, the businessman, let me take multimedia as an example. If you bought this equipment,
the prompter and the camera,
you will pay VAT, right? But you are not a consumer. You are a business. So you set the VAT aside, the VAT on the input, which is the prompter. Now, when you earn your advertising revenue for which you have been breaking, all this while, you charge VAT. What you actually pay, to GRA is the difference between the VAT on advertisement and the VAT you paid on the input. So you pay only the net. Why do you do that? Because at the time you imported the equipment, GRA had already collected a VAT and paid it over to government. So there's no reason, for you to add it to costs any longer. This principle has been taken out. One of the reforms and is leading to non-compliance, is leading to bribery, is leading because the levies have become so many. We are saying we are going to revert the NHIL and the Get Fund back into the VAT to make it.
And that will bring the rates down because now what we are seeing right now,
it will be the same rate because it was, when you say that the VAT rate was not reduced, let me explain again. It was 17.5%, made up of 10% the original VAT, 7.5% each for National Health Insurance levy, and then when we did the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund, another 7, And I'm saying that if you took it out and you deny the input tax credit or the refund to the businessman, like multimedia, you will add it to cost. Right? But if you were, take the principle that after all, customs has collected that tax already, so why do you have to add it to cost? Which is what we call technically cascaded. So, and this is the principle of the VAT. The sales tax was behaving that way, and that's why manufacturers were put in a ring. So I'm saying that we have gone back on things which were not efficient. And that's why I mentioned that despite all the, again somewhere, not I believe the morning, despite all these 20 levies, I can assure you that apart from 2023, the tax to GDP ratio and the revenue to GDP ratio did not exceed that of 2015. That is because they have become better.
Our development partners have complained, and there's always a debate about this tax to GDP ratio. It is low. And again, and I like this question because there are some who want to put this not as a campaign, but yeah, it's part of a pre-election promise.
Okay.
Having a bigger picture, Honorable, would you still advise His Excellency
yes,
go ahead and scrap these taxes?
No, I was going to that. So you see, there is one important gap which is leading to low tax compliance, apart from what I've mentioned. I mentioned that the VAT is paid by customs, right? It's sitting in ICOMS. What you paid, what multimedia paid, is sitting in ICOMS. We failed to complete the domestic tax element of ICOMS, which is the ITAS, which is a conditionality in IMF program. It was to have been started from 2017 as phase 2, just like the giftness. Right. Now, you are going to enhance compliance. We are going to enhance compliance when we facilitate as quickly as possible the ITAS, that's the domestic element. Why are we able to enhance compliance? It is because the VAT you paid at the port will straight away go into the domestic tax system. And you will be notified that you have a credit. You will be notified. If you file your returns, you know, and you understate it or you don't show it at all, the information has already flowed electronically. This is digitalization, right?
So there is no...
This is digitalization.
Well...
Which should have been completed.
So I get from you that there is no ambiguity and debate about it.
No, we are going
These taxes will go.
The taxes
will be scrapped.
No, but it will make the tax system more efficient, and we are going to be doing other things like the ITAS, which is why it's a condition.
And that will make up for these taxes that you are taking up for.
And even, yes.
But again, I come back to my question about the second thought. And you told me that when you put all these taxes together, it's still less 5% of GDP. That I know it's a promise and it has to be delivered. But someone say that on second thought, you think that you still go ahead and scrap these taxes? Because someone say that if you get a better picture of the economy, that could change your mind.
George, I have told you that many of these taxes were being collected and they were replaced by the VAT.
Okay.
So what we have
when those restructuring are done, it will make up for.
And we did better. We did better because the tax to GDP ratio rose slightly, higher. So what we are saying that this has become an impediment to compliance. Because
it's good to take it away.
So yes. So if you take it away, it is not like taking away and that is it. No. Taking it away would also achieve one result. The pillar, right? If you say that these are giving you 4%, where are the others coming? They are coming from four pillars of the tax system. And the pillars of the tax system, which I said again, elsewhere. 1, income tax, which is the personal income tax and the corporate income tax. 2, VAT. 3, import duty, which is protective. So you see, when we brought the benchmark and lower, we exposed ourselves because imports became cheaper than domestic, right? And then finally, excise, which is called the sin taxes. I can assure you, you can go through the list. Any other tax or levy that we have today is mimicking these 4.
So
now, in the past, okay, let me just land on this point. In the past, what we did was that we introduced 2 types of levies. The fiscal stabilization levy or the national stabilization levy, right, on the income tax side, and the temporary import duty. Now, we introduced them anytime we went into an IMF program. And then when we went out of the IMF program and resolved our issues, they went away. So they were used as complements to complement the expenditure, the expenditure cuts so that you are not cutting too much of, And so they serve a certain temporary purpose, just like the stabilization fund. When you have a crisis, you fall on it. When you don't have the crisis. In fact, if we had maintained the stabilization fund, just as we used part of it for COVID, we would have continued using it, for the flood victims and the rest.
So I guess...
So what we are doing is a careful, offset gain against losses, which ultimately will make the tax regime easier to comply with, and to administer.
And so the measures have been put in place to ensure that any hole that will be created will be quickly filled by these other measures that you
by these other measures.
Honorable, 24-hour economy, if I should follow your commercial, is it 133. I stand to be corrected on that one. Some have said that it should be market-driven than a deliberate policy for an economy like this. At 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, the DVLA office at 37, they are closing. The banks used to do Saturday banking, they are stopping. And previously, they were closing at 1, 2, now some are doing 3, 4, and all the rest. Some are saying that it should be market-driven when the demand is there, when the economy is expanding. Nobody will tell that woman at East Legon, that's also why she opposite that pub. That's a 24-hour economy. And therefore, it's more of market-driven than
it is a chicken.
Deliberately saying that this is going to create the jobs for everybody.
George, it's a chicken and egg situation. When you bring down the economy, then you say that demand is not there. Right? The economy has sunk. We are not able to pay contractors. We are not able to pay, inflation is high and all those. How do you expect the economy to be, So the way to re-engineer it, is, okay, yes, it's market-driven, it's practical.
But the promise out there is that
can you imagine
when the NDC comes to power, 24-hour economy will be a BDD.
Because
with the caution that it is dependent on the economy expanding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
and that could take some time.
Yes,
not
because
the first year or the second year.
No, let me give you an example. As we speak today, the guarantees are being called. That's why we have
from the IPPs.
From the IPPs.
Yeah.
So if with a conscious effort, as we are saying, you bring back, the lights and they are, on again, the economy which is in the dark will come into the light. And that's how you grow the economy. And there will be no question, as you're saying. Many people will continue with their evening trade,
So is this policy dependent?
And will not have to have 3 generators, to support.
I didn't know your account, but some then that means that this policy
so that you can.
is dependent on certain things happening, and it's not an automaticity that as soon as NDC take over from January 7,
that is why we
there's 24-hour economy and everybody will get job.
No, George, that's why we also said that for the 24-hour economy to work, it must be transformational and it must be sectoral. So you are going to look sector by sector and saying, what is the problem here? Why is customs not able to run, right? Ships are coming in the night. Planes are flying in the night. Why would you have to shut the airport? Why would you have to shut the port? Whatever inefficiencies are there, you are targeting it. And you are targeting it to the extent that you are making the 24-hour economy an outcome in a strategic plan for Ports and Harbors Authority. And we are saying that we want customs to work, what logistics is required and whatever. What is the outcome? Outcome number 1, we want customs there. Outcome number 2, we want Ports and Harbors Authority there. Those are the outcomes. And they are going to be straight in the budget. So you are going to channel the resources to make sure that it is happening.
Would there be any clear timelines,
passes, for example,
that you're going to look at? That you're going to look at any clear timelines when it comes to this whole program taking off?
That's what I'm putting in the context of the budget. So there will be those that will be annual. There will be those that will be long term, right? For example, you need to fix cranes and the rest, so you can't immediately say that you are running a 24-hour economy. Those must be done. You might even do expansion. Who knows? You might even build a new airport, from smart borrowing, so that...
we are struggling to pay this one as well. Some will say that.
We are not struggling.
Oh, okay. Everything is being done as well.
Well, I don't know. Okay. If we are struggling, then at
maybe
the time...
Maybe in the transition, we'll get to know whether...
Exactly. As when we built it, it was...
So I get from you that, it will not be a full takeoff,
but... It's going to be sector by sector, well planned, right? And then you have the enablers, like energy. It's an enabler of the 24-hour economy overall, right? Good roads is an enabler, because if you have good roads, elsewhere, most of the cargo from the ports, they travel in the night in many countries. But because of bad conditions and whatever, they don't want to. So Ministry of Roads will have its share. What does it take to bring, so that during the daytime, you have less heavy traffic moving and light traffic in the city?
But as you try and wrap, what I want to get your critical thoughts on also, even though we've moved on, is about how to deal with the revenue challenge and the expenditure challenge. Because again, these promises in the manifesto you would need revenue to manage them. But also, from what I've heard from you and even your manifesto, that charge of being put into expenditure. So we are going to see some cuts, but also this will be a challenge that you have to deal with, and whoever comes in, and even the new administration, about the revenue challenge and the expenditure challenge.
But I told you the NDC has the experience.
I know, but that is past. Moving on, what will be the strategy to deal with the revenue challenge?
Why do you want to dismiss the past?
No, fine. I mean, I feel
that's
yeah.
That's the record.
I know, but moving on,
okay.
What will be the plan to deal with these two critical things that would influence everything about the economy?
Okay, let's answer it. The homegrown policy approach is wholesome, is total.
Like,
so we are not looking, no, let me take the fiscal. We are not looking at revenue in isolation. We are not looking at expenditure in isolation.
None more time, 2 minutes as you try and wrap up here.
So we are taking revenue and then expenditure. Whilst you enhance revenue, as we are saying, you are looking at areas where you have to cut. We are taking arrears, which has always been a burden, and spread them over a medium term so that we can, the pipeline, you remember?
Yeah.
And this would enhance and lower the deficit, which will lead to less borrowing, right? Or more resources put aside for debt repayment so that we are able to borrow more to do. So it's a cycle. It's a loop that will be feeding itself. So it's not discrete. It's not discrete, even though I've mentioned revenue, I've mentioned, they are a loop that is feeding itself. And you are looking out for areas where there could be danger. And that loop is what African Development Bank is teaching, countries in Africa. Look at it as a loop. If you have one problem, don't look at it as discrete. If you want to do reforms, don't look at it as discrete. It's a cycle that is feeding itself. And you must always be watch out for
and all other things being equal, the budget will be presented in March or April 2025, right?
Certainly. We've always done it as an NDC since 1992 in an election year.
Honorable seem to be guided so much by history, but we'll be looking forward again to see some of the policy measures that this new administration would actually announce in the budget that should be presented latest by April 2025. Honorable Setekpe is the former Minister of Finance, played a critical role in the manifesto as well, and this is why we're getting detail from him as how is this new administration going to manage the economy with all the policy measures, 24-hour economy, tax cuts, and also resetting the Ghanaian economy. I know the debate will go on in your homes and your offices about how this government is planning to stabilize the economy going forward and whether indeed it will get the desired result that you and I are looking for. This has been PM Express Business Edition, engaging the former Minister of Finance, Setekpe. Have a great day.